All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. Shakur Stevenson says, I will see you at 130 pounds. Vasyl Lomachenko also talks about how the other promoters all need to get together and make these fights happen. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, want to say thank you to everybody that supports the channel in the Patreon and in the live streams and the super chats and such. Thank you guys so much for your support. Shakur Stevenson, up and coming 126 pounder. I think he tweets this today. He says, see you at 130 Loma. When that happens, y'all will see that I'm the effing truth. All that other side of the street-ish boxing is so trash. It takes away from the sport. I'm a boxer. I'm a fan. I'm a boxer and I'm a boxer fan. I enjoy seeing and being in the best, fighting the best. So Bob Arum and Al and even Eddie and Oscar need to have a big meeting and make boxing great again. All right, first person you need to talk to is your own promoter. I'm glad you started with Bob Arum because Bob Arum is about to move Vasyl Lomachenko out of 135 pounds and back down to 130 pounds to meet you, Shakur. I'm a little confused. If you say you're going to see this guy at 130 and Bob Arum said that Lomachenko won't stay at the weight class that he's already holds 3 belts in to fight Shakur Stevenson, but he's willing to go down to 130 pounds to fight somebody in his own stable, that seems to me to be like a little bit more of the same. Shakur, seems like a little bit of the same old stuff. It's good to say, now, first of all, I would love to see the best fighters fight the best, without a doubt. But I'm not quite sure that Lomachenko moving down to 130 pounds to fight Shakur Stevenson is an example of that. I don't understand how people will give a pass to Lomachenko for leaving a weight class that he's already in, that he holds 3 belts in, and there's a very good chance that he'll own 4 belts for, and say that's okay for him to go back down in weight to a weight class that is less competition and away from a weight class like 140 that has more competition. Now, that's just on the whole, the see you at 130 side of that. But also, Bob Arum put out answer some questions that were asked to him about, and I'm going to do another more detailed video about it, about Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. If you remember that Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury were already set. They've already fought once. They had a rematch set or ready to go. And then Tyson Fury was signed by Bob Arum, who then postponed that fight for at least 2 fights, could be 3, depending on what happens with Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua. But I'm going to do a separate video to again demonstrate how Bob Arum would be more than willing to stand in the way of unification at heavyweight so that his 2 fighters can get shots at the belts. The IBF mandatory Kubrat Pulev and Tyson Fury for the WBC. That doesn't seem, and like I said, I got a video coming out about that. That doesn't seem like the best fight and the best from Bob Arum. That seems Bob Arum having his pick, trying to play both sides of the street and of that street, of the heavyweight commission street, and making it work out for him. We sat and watched Bob Arum hold off fight after fight after fight. I've been watching Bob Arum preventing fights since Sugar Ray Leonard and Aaron Pryor. back in the early 1980s. Bob has been delaying fights and pushing off fights and keeping the best from fighting the best. And even acknowledging people as being the best for 50 years. I'm not buying it, man. I think that the way that you can actually get to the best fighting the best is not going to be any meeting of the minds between promoters. Between Al Heyman and Al Heyman not being a promoter, but for the sake of the argument, we'll say the PBC Al Heyman, right? But as I think about it though, I do find it interesting how Bob Arum never refers to the people that have their own promotional companies as promoters. Deontay Wilder has something called Bomb Squad Promotions. Errol Spence Jr. has Man Down Promotions. I don't think that there's really anything holding Bob Arum from speaking directly to Deontay Wilder or Errol Spence about making fights between the two fighters. But that's never been the mode of Bob Arum. I think of the people that are willing to make tough fights. I don't think that Oscar De La Hoya is necessarily really stands in the way in the way of too many big fights. The Canelo thing, seeing as that's 95% of that guy's money, yeah, I think he's standing in the way of that. It's just that that Oscar De La Hoya just doesn't really have very many fighters right now. But Bob Arum, for the most part, is the culprit of that. But in order to solve the problem, I think that the way that you solve the problem is by getting rid of sanctioning bodies. Because the way that the fights right now, the best can hide out can be spread out through umpteen different weight divisions and at least 4 different sanctioning bodies. And if you listen to what the guy that runs the WBO complained about with the WBC got pissed off that the WBC was entering these belts into fights that were being held by people that were ranked by the WBO. Why would the WBO be mad that the WBC gave the Aztec belt or something like that to Tyson Fury, the winner of Tyson Fury versus Otto Wallin? Unless they believe, no, those are our fighters. Those are WBO fighters. And you can have your WBC fighters. And then there'll be other WBA fighters and IBF fighters. You don't rank my fighters, I won't rank. If you don't rank my champion, I won't rank your champion. If you don't try to put your belt in the middle of a fight that we're sanctioning and piggybacking on ours, then I won't do that to you. But if you got rid of these sanctioning bodies, at least 2 of them, and I believe the IBF, probably the 2 I would get rid of are the WBA and the WBO. But if you did it based on the amount of time these belts have been around, it would be the WBO and the IBF. Regardless, if you had 2 less belts, you would have 2 more belts, 2 less sanctioning bodies. Then you would have that many fewer places for promoters to hide their fighters and keep them away from one another. If you had fewer weight classes, right? Like get rid of these tweener weight classes, like 112 and 115 and 115 and 122 and 130 and 140. If you got rid of some of those weight classes and you cut down the number of sanctioning bodies, you wouldn't have any choice but the best fighters to fight the best fighters, or at very least better fighters fighting better fights, because there would be that many fewer spots available at the top for them to call themselves title holders or to call themselves number 1 or number 2 or number 3 ranked contenders. I don't think getting people into the room together is going to solve the problem, because it's not going to correct the reason why they're doing it. The reason why Bob Arum is holding that off is because he can make as much money with 4 easy fights for his fighters as he can make 1 hard fight for his fighter. So if he puts his fighter in with 1 hard fighter, pop goes the weasel, right? And you're not going to get the other 4. You can't get the 4 and the hard fight. And that goes back to what I'm talking about with Vasily Lomachenko. Moving Vasily Lomachenko back down in weight is avoiding fighters that can give Vasily Lomachenko a difficult fight. And moving him away from those fighters back to somewhere else where he would be comfortable and he can win fights easily. So I don't know necessarily, Shakur Stevenson, if you need to be the one talking about all this, seeing as your promoter is the number one culprit of that, at least in my opinion, in boxing. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, we out. Peace.